Good morning. Good morning. Once again, it's your brother Demetrius Knuckles Zeal, aka Big Meech without the money. Listen, this is the Great Minds Project 5.0. I have my special guest on here, my brother Marcus Kelly of the Change Up. And in a few minutes, I have my brother Booker T from Michigan Liberation. So let's get into it, y'all. So the question today, and this is the question every day, but I'm calling it Freedom Friday. Because the question today is there go my man Marcus right there. Hey Marcus, see if you could okay, I can see you good. Can you hear me?
Yeah, it's water.
Is water wet? I don't know, man. It depends on what type of water you talking about. Listen, so we
Man, you
live,
about to
man.
be
This is my man Marcus, y'all. Marcus from the Change Up. Listen, criminal justice reform advocate at his greatest, putting in the work, always putting in the work, even when we cracking jokes. Believe me, that after that joke, coming a punch to the criminal justice system because we trying to knock it down. We trying to make a change. What's up? Introduce yourself, man.
Hey, good evening. Good morning, everybody. I'm Marcus Kelly, Executive Director of the Change Up Midnight. Formerly incarcerated. I've been doing this work for, if you go back to being in prison, so about 10 years. I started doing it officially when I came home around 2020. What I focus on right now is bringing away incarceration syndrome and trying to get rid of slavery and involuntary servitude. Reform. You can't reform a system built on slavery.
Right.
I also believe that there's no such thing on crime or soft on crime politician. There's only pro-slavery.
Okay, I got a question for you. How much time did you do in prison?
I did a 9-piece wing.
For what?
I did 9 years.
9 years. So tell me, in those 9 years, because you know I did the time too. How did you imagine freedom when you were incarcerated or in captivity? How did you imagine freedom?
That's a hard question. Imagining freedom when I was incarcerated. Mind you, we had to first realize that in that particular space, that emotion, in order to survive. And so the way I would imagine prison, imagine being able to love my children, being able to financial freedom, and just being able to live and without fear of being incarcerated or things like that. So, and those were just my visions of what freedom looked like for me.
How did it feel in the moment that you knew that? Well, let me back up. Aside from physical freedom, when did you gain any type of spiritual, psychological, social, emotional? When did you gain that type of freedom? Or
When I
have you ever gained
realized
that type of freedom?
when I realized that um, that that although they had me in physical captivity, that mentally I wasn't gonna allow them to have my mind. When I let my mind go free.
Huh. So I know for me, I uh I in 1999 I was in a segregation cell. And it was then that I realized that I had life without parole. And I said, man, I got to get out of prison. I got life without parole. And so it was in that very moment that I changed my life. I mean, it wasn't a moment after, it was in that very moment that I changed my life. Right. And so, and I think that my freedom, the psychological and social aspect of my freedom came in the fact that I made a decision in that moment to change my life. That meant that I was free from the bondage and the psychological tortures and the psychological programming that the system had been trying to impose on me for all of those years. So I didn't fully feel free, or I wasn't fully free in 1999, but that was the beginning of my journey of acknowledging that I was in captivity. Because for a long time, we was enjoying life. We was enjoying life. We doing certain things on the yard and in the world, people doing certain things. And we were just happy with not a care in the world, not realizing that the only place we were was in that four-cornered room or that circle with the fence around it with the barbed wire at the top. It never dawned on me to 5-6 years into my prison bit that that's where I was, because I was just enjoying life. So
yeah,
my freedom came when I realized that it was a fence around me and I was in a cell and I was in a room that I couldn't get out of when I want. I couldn't go eat what I want to eat. That's when I realized that I was in captivity, and that's when I realized that I wanted to be free.
I think so from what I gather, and it's just like the awakening that I had when I was reading the Constitution and realized that I was legally a slave. So I think that's where my transformation started then, so I see where you come. Yeah, my transformation began when I realized I was legally a slave. I realized slave was never abolished, that the Dred Scott ruling was still alive. So I know that right there was able to take the chains off my mind. So that, you know what I mean? So I started looking at the yard different. I started when that reality set in that I was a slave. I'm looking at the yard like wow, they got, remember how people used to be just in they groups and walking the track back and just in circles and circles, and it's like zombies. And I'm just like, I'm not going in there and working that chow hall today. You're not gonna force me to work for free. I'm not doing it. So I got to rebel, and then it's like I started that freedom that changed, because I'm claustrophobic, right? So I knew going to the hole, it was a possibility that I might panic because I'm claustrophobic.
Right.
But I wasn't going to eat those maggots. I'm not, you're not going to treat me like that. So it took a special kind of self-talk to tell myself, you probably finna go to the hole, but if you don't stand up, then who? So you know what I mean? So then I had to, so when I'm in the hole, in segregation, claustrophobic, I panicked the first 30, 40 minutes that I was in there. And I had to remember what my mother said, the late great, and she say, it don't matter where they put you, still in prison. Wow. And those words was able to help, soothe me to say, no matter what, I'm still in prison, no matter where they put me. You know what I'm saying? So, and in our mind, we still slaves, no matter what plantation we own. We still slave. We working on massive plantation. So, yeah, when I realized that I was a slave, I think that's where it woke things up for me. And I'm like, I'm not gonna let y'all treat me like that. I'm gonna fight to get slavery out of the Constitution.
You said something. First, I'm gonna go to that slavery out the Constitution issue, but I want to touch on this. You just said something. You said your mother always told you that no matter where they put you at, you still in prison, right?
Yeah.
My mother told me, my mother specifically told me, because I had life without parole for a crime that was that occurred when I was 17 years old that I didn't do. And my mother knew I didn't do it. And a lot of people knew I didn't do it, but the police framed me. But my mother always told me this. She said, no matter what happened to me, to my hurt, she said, if I even died, she said, don't stop and weep. Continue fighting for your freedom. That's what my mother told me. She said, and listen, I remember July 22nd, 23rd, 1995, I was in a segregation cell. And I got a letter. I got a letter saying that my mother was on her deathbed. And I used to do legal work all the time. That's all I did was legal work and write poetry and write rap and listen to music and work out. And so when I got word that my mother was on her deathbed, only thing that consoled me, this is really the only thing that consoled me through this time, because it's hard to lose a mother. But the words of life that let me know that she wasn't dying, but she was living, is the words that she spoke to me. And before she went to that deathbed, she said, no matter what happens to me, no matter if I die, continue fighting for your freedom. She reminded me. And so July 25th, when the sergeant and the case manager came to my cell door, which I'll get into later in another episode of Freedom. What does freedom mean to you, or Freedom Talk Fridays? They didn't like me up at Berica, so the case manager was behind the sergeant when the sergeant came to my cell door. I was in the ad said, and the case manager was laughing. He was laughing because they didn't like me just that much, that they had to come tell me that my mother had passed away on July 25th, 1995. And the case manager is behind the sergeant just laughing, doing like this. So, but because of the words of life that my mother bred into me and breathed into me, I didn't even acknowledge the man. The sergeant, Lynn Kaya, told me to come to the side of the door because she wanted to tell me on the side of the door so other prisoners couldn't hear it. And I told Lynn Kaya, because I seen it in her face, me and her was all right. I said, no, I already know what time it is. She said, you for sure? I said, I already know what time it is. She said, you all right? I said, yeah. Meanwhile, the case manager is behind her laughing and pointing the finger and all that type of stuff. But the God in me that I didn't even realize was activated in me at the time, or was active in me at the time, told me just to hold fast. You good. Remember,
hold on. Back that up. You said it was the God in you that told you to hold fast. And see, that's that's where I think I think sometimes we don't really pay attention to it, because it's the God in you that I see every time we speak and every time we together. You know what I mean? I see that God in you, man. That's that brother. You know what I mean? But go ahead. He just hit me with that.
But that's what really sustained. And keep in mind, 1995, I was a fool. I mean, I was a fool without a rule. Listen. But in that moment of 1999, I was so deep into studying law, and I had just learned how to really study law and research and all that stuff, that I was kind of good at it back in 95. And I swear, in those moments of silence in that segregation cell, I found myself listening or hearing silent voices. I was hearing silent voices, but I could hear it. And I didn't even know it. But I was following that silent voice. That silent voice was saying, no matter what happened to me, no matter if I died. Remember, you got life without parole in prison and you got to get out. That's the only voice that I kept hearing when I seen that case manager laughing and joking and mocking the death of my mama. And to this very day, I went back up to Berriga in 2010 or 2010. And I seen the same guy. And I was far stronger now than I was at that time. And he act like that he forgot what he did to me and all this and that. But I didn't even regard his presence with a response. Why? Because now I know God, and now I know what freedom really is, because what all my mother was telling me is look toward the light, walk toward the light. That's all she was saying, was walk toward the light. Mm-hmm. Because if you walk toward the light, you're going to find freedom. But if you keep sitting in the dark, all you're going to find is death and despair, captivity, and further mental enslavement. So freedom to me, man, that was my point of experience with a brush of freedom, and I didn't even know it at the time. 1995, when my mother passed away. That's when I really got that first whisper of freedom in my mind that I can recall. I'm sure it happened many other times, but that's the most prominent time in my life in prison that I can recall hearing the whispers of freedom.
Yeah, it was that common sense that kind of comforted you in a time of despair. I suffered the similar thing to where my mother passed away when I was incarcerated. And they didn't even tell me that she passed away. And, usually the chaplain's supposed to come talk to you, let you know, give you an opportunity to go to the funeral or whatever. They didn't tell me until almost 2 weeks after she passed away. You know what I mean? And they did it in a sense of trying to torture me, right? You know what I mean? Because I had a lawsuit against the Department of Corrections for a plethora of human rights violations. And so they wanted to, they was trying to break me. I remember one of the officers, telling me that I'm gonna kill myself before I get out, and just wow. You should kill yourself. So you'll kill yourself before you go out. Well, trust me, we'll put a knife on you. We'll give you extra time. All kind of things.
Crazy.
Especially my conviction got overturned May 1st of 2019, and they was threatening the heck out of me around that time. So when we talk about freedom, like I said, first it begins with freeing our minds, like what you said before, just taking the shackles off our brains. And there's always something comforting and soothing about the words of your mother, right?
Absolutely.
I don't know what I'm saying. I don't know what it is about a Black woman, but is it something about those soothing words that when she can look at you and say, "Hey, baby, listen, it don't matter where you at, they still got you in prison," and that was enough for me to have a sense of comfort in my time of despair.
Absolutely.
And like I said, realizing I was a slave was the scariest part, one of the scariest things in my life. Like, oh my God, I'm a slave. Like, I remember reading school, you know what I'm saying? Like, okay, they abolished slavery with the 13th Amendment, you know what I'm saying? And I'd never be a slave. And as I realized I was really, you know what I'm saying? And yeah, man, and it just, and then being forced to work, you know what I mean, and conditions without any OSHA protections, and without PPE. We cleaning showers, we cleaning up blood, we cleaning up all kind of stuff without no protections. And it's like, like why am I not worthy enough to have the protections of the unions.
Right.
Because the unions say we protecting all workers' rights, right? And what about me? You know, are you saying all but the slaves?
All but that's what they meant.
The slaves, you talking about collective bargaining, right? And the biggest threat to collective bargaining is prison. Think about it. They don't have to have any OSHA protections. They won't let you unionize. Number two. Number three, they don't have to pay you nothing. You know what I'm saying? So you working a 30, 40 hour job for only $20 a month. So all the companies are invested in prisons. So the biggest threat to collective bargaining are prisoners, are prisons. Why are they not protecting us?
It's funny you say that though, because you know how I'm gonna welcome Booker in a minute, y'all. And I got you muted right now, Book. I'm gonna welcome you in 1 second. Let me make sure I can get a full good picture of you. And so it's funny because there's a phrase that people would say about they would use this term right here. They would say, we make a penny on a dollar, right?
Mm-hmm.
We wasn't even making a penny on a dollar.
No.
We was making point 0.010 on a dollar. In other words, we was making a tenth of a penny on a dollar. And people don't look at that and they don't see slavery in that, right? They don't see slavery in the fact that the second largest industry in the world is the prison industrial complex. They don't see that a lot of the goods, license plates still being made. I know the police shirts are being made up north. I know because I used to work in the factory and I used to tear up all the shirts when I worked in the factory. They fired me. I made sure all the shirts was uneven and everything. So we make the police shirts, we make pants, we make underwears, we make socks. We make all type of items, chairs, and we make so many items in prison. And they talk about the Chinese and these foreign people, the slave market, how they make slave wages. I agree that that's slave wages, but the prisoners, and I'm using prisoners very strictly and intentionally, but the prisoners are those who are being enslaved inside of a plantation and not being paid for any of their labor. We can't, with the money that we make per month, if we got a headache, for example, and we need Tylenol, shoot, all we're gonna make is $20 that month. The Tylenol costs $5. And then
right.
And then on top of that, we're gonna say we need deodorant because they don't want you to even come to work stinking. So your deodorant costs $3, your toothpaste costs $3. So now you just spent 11 of the $20 just on the basic stuff. And then that ain't counting your toothbrush. That ain't counting the soap. So by the time you're done with just a week's worth of hygiene, or we're gonna say 2 weeks worth of hygiene products, you done exhausted your whole $20 that you worked for all that month. And somebody just said this to me the other day. Somebody just said this. They said, when we was at that conference last week, I was talking to the one guy about, what is it, proposal 6 in California? No, my fault. It's proposal B in California, right? That they trying to end slavery in California prisons. I think you froze up, Marcus, because you don't look like that. So
slavery bill.
Yeah. So the guy told me, he said, one guy cut his finger off.
Yours freezing.
Working. You hear that, man? And they tell him after he gets banished up, he got to go back to work. Hey, man, let me welcome old Booker in, man, because this guy, he's starting to really irritate me right now looking like that, man. I'm going to swing on him in a minute. Hold on, Booker, man. What's up, Book? Introduce yourself. You jive turkey.
I'm Booker T with Michigan Liberation. I'm an organizer. I've been with Michigan Liberation since 2018. I'm also on the Racial Integrity Advisory Board in Oakland County. And I'm also a mentor, but I haven't done a good job with Demetrius. And so I came on the show today because I felt a little sorry for him because I knew he needed some real positive energy because he hasn't put it this way. I don't like to be too blunt, but he hasn't defecated today, so he hasn't released all that toxicity out of his body. You need to incorporate some more somatics into your lifestyle, brother.
So in other words, he's saying you full of shit
all the time. Hey,
it's kind of hard sometimes when you live in a world that's full of shit, and so when you're fighting that shit, we got to have some sense of humor.
Listen.
So,
hey everybody, thanks a lot. This is we have Booker T, the last of the attemptations.
Attemptations. The last of the attemptations.
Attemptation.
Hey, Booker, let me ask you something, Booker. At what point, or was there a point, how much time did you serve, first of all?
25 and a half years.
For what?
I went in the prison system. It was for multiple crimes, but at the one I served the most time was, it really caught my attention, is in 1985, I got sentenced in Wayne County to 25 to 100 years for taking a purse out of an elderly white lady's car in Rosedale Park, which is the community that I lived in while I was strung out on freebase. And
25 to 100 years.
Yes, sir.
For taking a purse out of an elderly white, not taking it out of her hands, not saying that we're not trying to minimize anything, but you didn't take it out of her hand.
No. Well, what happened is, what had happened is, this is what happened. I pulled up and we were going to a carnival. I was with another couple and my girlfriend, my son's mother. God rest her soul now. And I was strung out on the freebase. And I seen a lady from across the street leaving the bank that was over there on Schoolcraft there. And when she pulled up in the driveway and came up into the parking lot for the drugstore, she had her four-door vehicle, and you could see that the car door was open, because back then you could see, when they had those locks up, you could see them real easy. And so I reached into the back of it real quick after I opened up the door, grabbed it, and she tried to grab it, and I snatched it from her and took off. Later on that evening, they caught me. I'm still wearing the same purple outfit and the same jerry curls dripping. And I got, they hit me with a 4th degree habitual because of some criminal activity that I'd had in the past, which was like larceny in a building, breaking in lockers. It was really mediocre, not violent offenses or anything to associate with a person that you would think that a person would be a threat to the community. And I just like to say that if she had been a black woman, there's no way in hell that I would have received that much time, because they had been releasing people back into the community to be predators in your own community. That's okay. But even though this is a community that I lived in, it was a middle-class neighborhood. If it had been something similar in the inner city or something, I wouldn't have got that drastic amount of time. And then I had a racist judge and prosecutorial offense against me with them working in together. So, yeah, I'm not a person that come back looking at a pity party and want people to feel sorry for me and everything, because when they sent me in there at 26, they was just sending me there to finish me off and everything. When they send a lot of people to those prisons, giving them those basketball scores and everything, it's to degenerate you and to break you down. And then when you come back home, the only good that you can be is holding one of those signs off the freeway. holding one of these signs off one of the main thoroughways and in the community where you see people begging. It doesn't arm you with solutions and coming up with methods to correct people. I don't know why they call it the Michigan Department of Correction, because it's the Michigan Department of Corruption, and that goes in any city with their Department of Corrections and everything, because it's punitive, that the way that they do people. And just like coming into the conversation with both of y'all and hearing how the slave wages go, where if you had a good job in the kitchen with us, you made 32 cents an hour or something like that if you was like a head cook. So maybe at the end of the month, you brought home a little over $100 or something. But the work and the hours that you had to put in and all the abuse that you had to take in order to be able to even function and be in that environment. And, you know, it's just the system is just so broken, and they're not dealing with anything in a cognitive manifestation. They're dealing with it with just, we were in there during the times when it was mass incarceration, the growing of it. And that's when I met Demetrius in Jackson, when they started bringing, I seen the population shift. I went in 85, the end of 85. By 1989 is when I started seeing all these young people start coming, because they had to take me back to court for my appeals process. And I would go back to the county jail and I would see that the shift had changed with the volume of people that was coming in that was young. And so recognizing that, because when I went in prison, my son was 2.5 years old. And I used to always think when I ran across younger brothers in there, that I would just say, how would I want, even though my son was 2, I said, I would imagine in my mind that if the man was me and the young man was my son, well, if the man was me and it was someone else's son, how would I want that man that's me to treat that man that could potentially have been my own son? Yeah. You understand? I'm looking down the road, way down there, and it's just, go ahead, Marcus. You were saying something?
Marcus, before you say something, Marcus, I got to highlight a few points I jotted down, right? Some very important stuff that Booker said that makes so much sense now, right? He said that he had a Jerry curl. And he said he was wearing purple, right?
And my name ain't Barney either.
What, man, you didn't have them pants that Prince had on, did you, Booker, man?
I'm trying to tell you, brother, show you how much you can be out of your mind when you're out here, when they're putting these substances out here to, you know, to get people in that. And I know it's funny. That's why I bring it up. What in the hell am I out there trying to do a crime in a purple outfit for in the first place? With some running around like I'm Rick James or somebody with drippy ass jury curls. You know?
I wanted to touch on something. One thing that we don't really consider is first we got to think about white supremacy and how they created how they started creating narratives, right? And now we start taking those words and start implementing it in our day-to-day life.
Yeah.
Like terms like the system is broken. Is it broken?
Or is it
Think about it. And when you go back, no, listen, when you go back to chattel slavery, it was to do what? It was to isolate, you know what I'm saying, dehumanize, you know what I'm saying, and
you were deemed property. That's what the whole word chattel. So you're deemed property. You're not even looked at as being a human being.
Yeah, right. And you still deemed
like somebody's dog. And you got regulations about how you can handle a dog at your house. You can't just abuse it. But they took us even below that level.
Yeah, but here's the thing. So the system ain't broken. It's still, if it was broken, then it wouldn't be mass incarceration anymore.
Right.
Think about it. Policing started with the beginning of the Fugitive Slave Act, and they were supposed to capture, isolate, and murder if they have to, but they were supposed to bring slaves back. Now they call police. You know what I'm saying? Prisons, when the 13th Amendment was created, it was to allow slavery if you convict them of a crime. So prison is still slavery.
Right.
And slavery, dehumanizing, all that back then. Prison is violent, degrading, dehumanizing today. So where is the system broken?
You know,
it's not broken.
During slavery, y'all remember me and Marcus was over in Ghana, and they have you go through the last bath to wash yourself, right? And they have you wash yourself before they send you to your placement, your temporary plantation, until they get you to your main spot where they sell you off to the slave masters at.
They do today.
Is this not exactly what the prison system do? They take us through what is called a quarantine. We gotta shower. You have to shower. They're not going to let you not shower because they want to make sure that when they sell you off, that you look your best to the next master. So you got to shower. They're going to make you bend over and spread your cheeks and all that other stuff like they did in slavery. When they get a new slave, they tell them to bend over. All the same stuff that they do in prison. They literally tell them to put their hands up. They say, turn around. First of all, you put your hands up while you're facing them. They looking you up and down, looking at your piece. If you got a coochie, they're looking at your coochie. They telling you to turn around. They're telling you to spread your cheeks. Exact same scenarios playing out. And then they throw some clothes at you. They literally, there you go, put that on. It ain't got to fit, but you're going to wear it. So they tell you to put these clothes on. And then after you put them clothes on, they take you to a certain area, a sitting area, so where they can log your name in at, the name that they give you, log your name in. Everything is identical to slavery. So the only difference with prison and that other form of slavery is that now they saying, we giving y'all a benefit because we're going to give you $20 a month to be a slave. That's it. We giving you $20 a month for being a slave for the rest of your life. We're going to pay you $20 a month. And we already making money off you anyway, because that's why we gave you that prison number. So we making our money off you there. But we're going to give you $20 back every month.
Man, you know, the crazy part though, Booker T, I was thinking, right, is it's the narrative. They just did it again last night. It's just so funny. It's the narrative. They say that, you know what I'm saying, or you, especially when I hear a black person say it, it'd be weird, but they say the Mexicans are coming over here taking our jobs. They're coming over and taking, prisons are taking the jobs. It's prisons. Right. Prisons are taking the jobs. You know, so you think about it, you walk through Target, you walk through all of those different stations, you don't even see nobody working the lines no more. You see computers now. you know what I mean? And then you walk through Costco, you walk through McDonald's, and it's funny I named them because all of them are invested in prison.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? So everybody that's invested in prison are now losing their workers and their companies. Now, those are the people, you know, that's why I say that the unions should be protecting prisoners now, because if prisoners are able to get at least minimum wage, then people are their job, and prisons wouldn't be so packed, because it wouldn't be a monetary incentive to incarcerate no more.
Right.
It's beneficial for me to incarcerate you, and I still got to pay you $10, $11 an hour.
And they would have to.
They would
have to pay people more.
Yeah, if I had to pay you $10 or $11 an hour, why am I ain't no sense on me locking you up. You 15, 14 weeks. Because right now they try to get as much benefit and work out of a guy They want to work your best years and then send you home when your back all messed up and all you can do is hold up a sign or work a line and take whatever you can get because you don't want to die. But so they locking you up at 14 years old. They just passed a bill in Maryland to lock them up at 10 years old. So you know what I mean? Like recently. So they come get you 15, 16, give you 40 years, 100 years, you know what I'm saying, and release you about 40, and at 50, you got half a back and diabetes. So it's like, you know what I'm saying, real talk, because they don't feed you nothing healthy. You know what I'm saying? That's the lowest of all the lows of food they pay. Just like in chattel slavery, they was giving people like grain and, you know what I'm saying, stuff like that. They pay you just enough to live. You know what I'm saying? And so when you're talking about paying somebody minimum wage, it's like, where's the benefit of locking this person up right now? It's no longer a benefit. So let's figure out, let's rehabilitate, which I hate to say that word, because if you was broken before you went to prison, I don't want to put back to when I get out. But if you are correcting people, then given an opportunity to be corrected, then let's provide, it should be more of a job training, more of a job corps kind of situation, right? You know what I'm saying? It don't take a guy 30 years to learn his lesson. After 5, you learn his lesson in 5, still got extra 25 years later. He done forgot what he learned 25 years ago. So it's like, come on, man, where does this make sense at? You know what I'm saying?
That's why Marcus always speak in behalf of the normality principle. I happened to be watching TV and was watching PBS over 10 years ago. And they had this program on there where they were looking at their criminology over in Sweden. They were utilizing the normality principle, which is treating people not as bad people who need to be punished, but broken people who can be fixed. Wow. So when they were going into the prisons, no matter what the offenses were, they were being treated with dignity. They were being, they had microwaves, which they later have, which they do have now, I know, in the prisons in Michigan, because when we first started, they didn't have no microwaves or none of that. We had, we was primitive, the way we had to heat up stuff and everything. But I'm not going to overshadow what I'm speaking on. The reason why I advocate for the normality principle is because those guys were coming home. They had couches sitting all around in different areas and stuff. So it was just like you were away. You probably was in a better situation when you got confined than where you were prior to you getting there. And then they're looking at changing the narrative of criminology. And how do you change something? You do a deep dive into thinking about what made this little boy, what made this man rape this little boy? Wow. Was he touched? What made that woman to go out there to be a prostitute? Was she molested as a child? This is how she, going out there looking for love in all the wrong places, getting caught up, and then getting caught up in the street life and everything. Those are the things. Was it mental health in the house and substance abuse? Was it assaultive behavior demonstrated by parents? A person don't come out to be Jeffrey Dahmer, putting people's penises in jars and pickling them, and that just happened overnight.
Crazy.
We have to look at we address all the components, and because I'm not going to be talking much because I'm still recovering. But here it is, with our criminal and injustice system is what I like to say. Because like you say, it's because of the money. See, you want to follow the corruption, you follow the money. It's not profitable for them. They don't think to get a person to go through the system. They're returning, for the people that were returning back to prisons in Sweden after I was watching this interview, it was like 90% were coming home and becoming productive. because you have a lot of people. Just think of those people that's been abused all their life. Me and Demetrius met people that never went on visits. I'm talking about you that been locked up 30 years and ain't seen none of your family. Rarely got a letter, maybe 4 or 5 of them. I took bags of stuff home with letters and all kinds of stuff that was going on and everything. And so it's easy for a person to be exploited. That's why it's so, I tell you, the Morris Science Temple of America up in the penitentiary, if it wasn't for a lot of them brothers, I don't know what kind of mindset I really would have had. I give them brothers salute in Islam all the days of my life, because they were brothers that was holding the fort. The Nation of Islam and the Melanic brothers and the Christians, we all got together and we become a coalition. And that's how we started making changes. But what I like to see, though, getting down to the point, is that we have to look at criminology through a different lens. Demetrius can speak in behalf how we formulated and got some guys together and some women that were formerly incarcerated and went up and spoke to 100 prosecutors in Oakland County. In 250, there was 50 each session. We had 2 sessions that we spoke. And the reason why they wanted to speak to us, because they wanted to hear the whole story. There's a story behind Marcus Kelly. There's a story in the Quran or Bible, or it's your scripture is being written, brother, the way as you live, with us being on here right now, reaching out to the multitude of the people to illustrate that a person can change if opportunity is extended. And that's the thing why I say about the normality principle. It's not looking at bad people who need to be punished, but broken people who can be fixed. In the center of that, we have to put opportunity, because I come home and I got 17 felonies at the end, 4 failed paroles, and served 25 and a half years altogether. I come home after 13, after I got resentenced on that 25 to 100, which was still quite extreme for that charge. There should have been some intervention, of course. I had to make amends with myself, because that was somebody's mother, first of all. That was somebody's sister, somebody's grandmother possibly. And so I had to bring the humanity back into it because of my own ignorance and being caught up on drugs. And when I came into my right mind, I had to understand that there's a ripple effect to the things that we all do in our life. What we're doing here, there's a ripple effect. What kind of vibrations are you putting out into the ethers? You understand? And so that's going to be able to vibrate and touch somebody else. It's not easy talking about the challenges that that have gone through in your life. To give a testimonial, we can sit here and laugh all motherfucking day and talk shit and have some fun. But when it comes down to the real piercing, the heart conversations, those conversations are not easy for anybody to just get on there. It's easy for me to get on there and say, well, I took a purse. I had some armed robberies. I got way less time than that. But they hit me up with the charge with the taking the purse.
Marcus trying to get in.
Go Booker don't stop. But I'm gonna tell you, Booker T. First, I want to say I don't want to minimize anything. I get it, but what they did, that was they harmed you, brother. See, I'm gonna tell you why. You didn't strong arm nobody. You didn't do it. Okay, yeah, you took somebody's purse out of their car. Okay, I get it. 25 years though. Think about it. You are addicted. Hold on, you are addicted to drugs at the time. You were an addict. That is a sickness. You should have been. They should have gave you treatment, but instead they harmed you. 25 years for stealing the purse. You know what I mean? It doesn't make logical sense.
No.
So what that's telling you, that's what I try to tell people about how they are black mental illnesses. They don't look at us as being drug addicts or needing help. They criminalize everything.
Demonize.
And they punish you to the highest extent of the law. You know what I'm saying? Now you talking about a brother that all he needed was counseling. All he needed was AA, NA. You know what I'm saying? And perhaps to be able to pay whatever the lady need back, because she never gonna get that money that they supposed to give you for the crime victims right fee. She never get the money, so she's never really fully restored anyway.
Right.
So you know what I'm saying? So we talking about also another person who lost his life. Now, how does it, and if you notice, you look at the courtroom, they always want to make you put your right hand on a Bible and swear, but you don't even believe in the same principles and laws that you want us to actually adhere to. Like we want to take more, they want to put Christianity over everything, but y'all don't even follow the same rules and laws that you want to push on us.
Wow.
Think about it.
Let me say this, because you just hit a nail on the head with me, man. I was listening to, y'all know that Kamala Harris did an interview with Charlemagne the God the other day.
Yeah, I'm saying that.
I had an issue with the fact that of all people you would do an interview with in Detroit, so many other people qualified, but the narrator or the moderator was Charlemagne the God. I had an issue with that, right? But I listened to the whole interview. She never ducked a question. She answered them head on. She didn't go around. But the point that I'm making is that the day afterwards, you had this pastor out of Detroit, one of Trump's bootlickers. He's well known. His name is Lorenzo Sowell. That's the church that Trump visited when he came here the last time. See, Trump got a history of, and first of all, I want all the viewers to know that I'm not, this ain't about the politics. I'm talking about the characters. So Trump got a history of visiting the people that he feel like has the most influence. Ain't nothing wrong with that. That's called strategy. So he went to a big church last time when he went to my man Jackson church. And anybody that know my man Jackson from back in the days, come on, I knew him back in the days. So Trump strategically went to this man's church who was tied to a whole lot of boatloads of, some drugs and stuff, and got out somehow, some way. And now he goes to Lorenzo Sowell's church this time around because he has this certain influence, and instead of staying behind a pulpit ministering to his congregation, helping to uplift his people, instead of feeding the people on the streets, instead of clothing the people on the streets, instead of making sure people have a place to stay during the wintertime, he had the audacity to go on Fox News and condemn Kamala Harris. So now he's partaking in politics instead of he leaving his congregation to partake in politics. But guess what? He said something that made so much sense to me that spoke of his character. He says 4,500 churches in the city of Detroit. 45. That tells me that therein lies the problem. If you got to have that many churches, somebody ain't following something, right?
You're right.
Marcus just said they want to impose Christianity on us, but yet they don't even follow the precepts of it.
Right.
Because if they followed the precepts of it, it wouldn't be 4,500 churches in just the city of Detroit. And then you wouldn't have a pastor getting on there talking about what Kamala Harris or Trump was talking about, because the pastor would be busy trying to take care of his flock.
You know
but he's
what?
not concerned with the flock because he's not concerned with the flock. He's concerned with the pocket.
You know what? Pastor Barry Randolph at the Church of the Messiah, he said, here it is. We got these 4,500 churches in Detroit, but we still have one of the highest murder rates in the nation. He says we should be one of the most holiest of holy lands. Just in our, in our little area and space.
That's because
folks ain't doing their job.
Yeah, not just that. But that's intentional. If you notice, ever since the civil rights movement, every movement that we ever had began in the church. Every movement.
That's right. Organizing. That's what a lot of the organizing.
You know what I'm saying? Yeah, that's organized. Jesus and the disciples were organizers.
That's right, brother.
You know what I'm saying? So they were the greatest organizers. And although I would live for my beliefs today, they died for their cause. So it's like, you know what I'm saying, only to live again through us, right? So, you know what I'm saying, we're just pushing the message. But we always have false prophets. The problem that Detroit have, even though they have 4,500 churches, which is 4,500 different ways of living, the problem that I feel that churches are having today is that they're not getting in the community for real. They stand in the four walls of those church walls, and they preaching and ministering to the same people that understand already the Lord or understand God or whatever they believe in. So if somebody else walks up, you're not like us, you don't look like us, you don't dress like us, so you're not coming to our church. So if you only talking to the same people, like Jesus said in the Bible, they asked him, why are you sitting with the debt collectors? Why are you sitting with them? And he said, because I came here to save the sick. So if you ain't out here, what are you doing?
That's right.
Besides looking good, dressing up every Sunday, you know what I'm saying?
I asked a lot of the pastors, and I asked a lot of the imams. I asked a lot of the grand sheiks. I asked a lot of the people who are in clergy and Catholic and everything. I go across all the denominations, and I asked them, you know, have you ever been up in a jail to visit the captives?
Right.
That's in scripture.
Right. How many of them going to the jails to minister to them? But they judge somebody coming home.
That's right.
And that tells of who they are and whether or not they are free. See, because a lady said yesterday at the event that I went to at the some disparity from disparity to, I forgot, it's by State Rep Kimberly Edwards. She had her event, and I went to it, and the lady said yesterday, she said, and we all know this from the Bible, she said, faith without works is dead, because they was talking about the marriage of health care and church. They don't really talk about it. One lady got up and talked about how she was going through a lot of personal problems and about to be homeless. She said the church didn't do nothing for her. Older female, handicapped female, she said they didn't do nothing for her. You know why? Because faith without works is dead. People talk about faith all day, and that's part of that captivity. You know, the fear of being free. See, because that's a lot of slaves, Harriet Tubman said she would have saved a lot of more people had they known that they were slaves. So a lot of people, a lot of pastors right now today are scared to help free, or show how to free his people. Why? Because it's easy to keep them captive and get their money out their pocket, because if I let them free, they're not going to give me no more money.
I'm gonna let you Google. I want y'all to Google something, and it came out a couple years ago that since the civil rights movement that began in churches, now a lot of churches that has either a woman as head of church or is getting or tries to get in the civil rights movement, they don't get funded. Wow! So that plays a part of it too. But you know what I'm saying? And that's one issue. The second issue is people. The problem that I have with people is and I ain't gonna say they want you to believe. That's it. Same thing they did with Nat Turner. They only wanted to talk about obey your master, obey this, obey that, and until he actually started reading the rest of the Bible. You know what I'm saying? And I say that to say this today. We talk about love love thy neighbor like you love thyself, and
Yeah.
come as you are, and things like that. The golden rules and the book of Ephesians, when it's talking about love, which is long standing faith, you know what I'm saying, patience, things like that. But then you don't practice that in real life. So, and I say that I'm bringing it back to the criminal and justice system. The criminal, when you're talking about the criminal and justice system, if you are a believer, then how could you let somebody suffer the way you do? If you are a believer, then how could you let somebody suffer during child the way you did? How could you hang somebody, set them on fire, dance around that fire with your children, and go home and have breakfast with your wife and kids like ain't nothing happened?
Nothing happened.
How could you do that if you are a true believer?
Come on, Booker. Answer that one, Booker.
But in the Bible, they also talked about Paul. Paul was persecuting people in the name of the Lord. It's a guy
cutting ears off,
my people. So we do that all the time.
But let's understand what the symbolic meaning of cutting ears off, Booker.
Yeah.
Come on. See, because the only way that I could teach you how to be free if you cannot see is for you to hear.
That's right.
That's the only way. So you can't, and that's what they was talking about yesterday, how Jesus, I was looking at something and they was talking about how Jesus, he gave sight to the blind, right?
Mm-hmm.
They didn't mean physical sight.
Absolutely.
They meant waking up the mind.
That insight, baby.
That's sight.
That's
insight.
right.
See, that's insight.
That's right.
And now, if our eyes are already covered, right? Because we're enslaved and we tired of being beaten. So usually we like this, right?
Mm-hmm.
We not like this. We like this. So the only way you're gonna get a message to me, because my head is down, my head is in my hands because I'm tired of being beaten.
You're in a submissive posture.
That's right. So now the only thing I can do is listen
and pray.
So now what Paul did was cut people's ears off so they can't listen. And that's what the people are doing today with the politics that's going around. Because,
man,
listen, they understand that in today's time, it's so many freedom organizations. You have Marcus with Change Up, Michigan Liberation, Mass Liberation. You got Nation Outside. You got a lot of organizations right now. The Moorish Sign Temple of America, Nation Islam, the Melanic Islamic Palace of the Rising Sun, a lot of the Sunni Muslim and Orthodox Muslim. These are freedom organizations right now today, right?
Shawana Vaughn and all them.
Listen, Shawana Vaughn talks this, listen. But the system,
Big Larry, all of them,
cut our ears off. Yeah. The system want us to, because they already know we tired of being beaten. But what they not thinking about now is we not doing like this no more. You can cut my ears off all you want to, but I see you, devil. I see you, and as long as I can see you, I know I can defeat you.
That's right.
But if we keep doing like this because we scared, we'll never be free. So that's when freedom, I was telling Marcus this when you came on, that's when I realized I was free. When I was able to do this, because I couldn't hear because I wasn't listening to nobody. Well, but I can see, and you cannot deny what you see.
And you know what? When you come into your full consciousness, when you say, what does freedom mean to you? Freedom means for me to be able to claim my own agency, to be able to make my own decisions. We shouldn't be we shouldn't be somewhere where people can gaslight folks and just say any fucking thing they want to the masses and not be held accountable.
I gotta get ready to get up
and not be held accountable. We should all be held accountable for the things. But freedom to me is freedom of your mind, brother. Because if you have your mind free, you ain't gonna let nothing else hold you back. And that you're able to teach then at that point. Because when you listen, like Demetrius said, that's when you learn. If you blind, you can still learn because you have the capability to be able to listen and the sensations of your spirit to be able to feel if it's truth or not, though. So your mind is the most important component, and that's what y'all was talking about earlier, Marcus. We'll talk about, I've dealt with the last couple of years some medical issues, man. But we can go to cardiac for our heart. We can go to optometry for our eyes. We can go to for our feet podiatry, but we cannot. We don't go about our brain. The most important thing, you have a person on a gurney. They can be brain dead, but their organs are still good, and they can still use those organs as something for somebody. You brain dead.
Right.
But they'll tell you to deal with your heart more than your brain. The thing that we should be emphasizing is mental health. Because if we can get your brain, we can get this. We got everything we need with you. Because we can run you now.
You know, you mentioned mental health, and ironically, Detroit Police Chief White just accepted the job as CEO of DWIN. That's Detroit Wayne Integrated Health Network. And ironically, when he applied for the job, it was big news because didn't nobody know. But we had always said, and news commentators already said, that if he applied, it's because he know he getting the job. He's not going to apply for that particular job unless somebody then gave him the one up saying you got it. So he accepted the job, and ironically, he accepted it on right around the very days that a Detroit off-duty officer shot two other Detroit off-duty officers because allegedly the off-duty officer was trying to he wanted to be suicide by a cop. And Chief White came on the news afterwards, and he was saying, because he's been a big advocate. I will say that about him. I don't agree with everything, but I agree with this about him. He said mental health is our number one challenge in our society because everybody overlooks mental health. There's taboo about talking about mental health, seeing a psychologist. He said mental health is one of our number one challenges. And if we don't win this fight, take on this fight head on, we're going to have a lot of more problems. And that problem unfolded the other day when a off-duty police officer shot two on-duty police officers. Yep. And who better? And my cousin said this to me yesterday. My cousin and my girlfriend said this to me yesterday in different conversations. They said, how can we as the people think that a lot of these officers are so sane and they're coming to our rescue when they just seen 3-4 dead bodies on the way to your house on other calls that they had? Absolutely. This stuff weigh on people. Imagine you going to a situation, for example, what happened at Eastern Market, and people posted the pictures of that brother laying there, been shot in the head. He just laying there on the curb, and the other guy laying right. They just posting these pictures as if it's entertainment. Right. But to some people, it's traumatizing.
That's right.
And so now you got officers. If you ever seen the video, you had certain officers that was just, they didn't even want to look. They didn't want to look. But imagine those officers who have to do this look every 3-4 times a week.
Yep.
The psychological trauma on them. Now, what I am saying is to say this here. No wonder we can't receive proper protection.
Because they're not getting the treat. They're not getting the medical treatment that they deserve. People that are firefighters, you done went up in there and seen 3 or 4 kids up in there, burnt up, crispy critters. You understand? And then you supposed to go home and function or come out here in society, and that's not supposed to weigh on you.
Right.
Just living in this world, wearing a meat suit. You understand? We all wearing a meat suit.
That's it.
And the deal, and with a brain, and living in this world, that alone should be something to have an emphasis on the most important component in our lives, which is mental health and dealing with our mental health system. Until I was able, like I said, brother, to start exercising, and that came not long ago. You understand? You know, I can say it was an evolution. The change is an evolution because there are not components in our society to help cope and teach people coping skills to be able to deal with living in this world, man, and the challenges that we face and the obstacles and how the deck is stacked against especially the Black and brown and impoverished communities.
Let me say this, because I just read this. I'm reading it right now. The new Wayne County Jail, because we talking about what does freedom mean to me. Freedom means equality. Freedom means the ability to do as your mind dictates, as long as it's right. Freedom means that there are no restrictions and no strictures around you, no fences, no gates, no limitations, no walls.
That's right.
You're able to be your authentic self, the person that God created. Live out the potentials that you possess, which are limitless. That's freedom. Freedom is not locking someone up in a cage, tearing down them mentally, destroying them psychologically, handcuffing them and shackling them to beds and shackling their wrists and ankles together, putting a noose around their neck. Freedom is not putting them in a new county jail that you know was not ready to be lived in. Freedom is not putting brothers and sisters in a new county jail because you want to make money and not be humane about it. Freedom is not leaving people in a county jail on a certain floor that's always flooding, and you know it's a flooding problem, but you never even correct it. What you just did, according to the newspaper today, what they did, because people was flooding, they would bust the water sprinklers to get the attention of the officers, because they say they show so short staffed that staff don't want to come to work, or they don't have enough staff to work. 2 inmates killed themselves in the first month of the opening of the new Wayne County Jail. Now, they just purchased, and I'm reading it right here. It says, as Wayne County Jail inmates cause floods in a new facility amid reports of staffing shortage and prolonged lockdowns, county officials have turned to a mechanical fix to stem the tide of destruction. Heavy-duty water sprinklers. What about changing the atmosphere, the culture of how the Wayne County Jail is ran? But again, Marcus said that the system is working. It's doing exactly what they said.
For them.
See, I'm going to tell you something that former Detroit Mayor Kwame Kilpatrick said. I want to see if I could pull this up, because I really want to quote what he said, because this was, and I ain't even really feeling dog like that after he did this stuff with Trump. But I'm going to say this here. He hit the nail on the head with this one. What is it? Kwame Kilpatrick. Man, I don't know if I'm going to be able to pull it up. But Kwame Kilpatrick said he was riding up Dexter a couple days ago. He said he was riding up Dexter. He said, and he noticed, oh, here it is right here. Hold up. Oh, that ain't it. He said he was riding up Dexter. and he noticed that they doing a lot of construction on Dexter, fixing the roads and stuff. He said, this my stomping ground. Oh, I think this is. And he said he noticed that they was doing a lot of construction. He said, man, he said he got out. He jumped out of his car to go talk to the construction workers. He noticed that none of all this construction, all the way down Dexter from Davison all the way down to wherever, man. He said all this construction, and there was not one black construction worker.
Mm-hmm.
He said, now let me give you a little history. You know, part of his trial dealt with him giving out contracts to his own people, because his man's got caught up in the contracts where they said he was giving away these contracts to the guy, and he got caught up with the they said a couple $100 million, $30 million contract, that type of thing. So, and it was all about, they was trying to say Kwame was giving contracts to his own people. So now think about this 20 years later, and Kwame riding up Dexter, and he see all this construction going on. But he don't see no black workers doing this construction. But that ain't what caught his eye most. That's what caught his eye, but what caught his ear was this here. None of the construction workers were from Detroit.
That too.
Kwame Kilpatrick said, see, their game plan is working. He said the plan is working. Because what he alluding to is he saying, see how they got me out of there? Because I employed us. They got me out of there so they can employ their own. Their plan is working on us.
Absolutely.
Man, listen. All right, Book, man, I really wanted to find this video, man, because I really wanted you to hear it from his own words.
Send it to me. Send it to me. I'm glad I was able to get on here and vocalize a little bit, because I'm not going to be talking for another week. Let my throat heal from that surgery. And so I'm just glad that I was able to get in here for a minute with you and Marcus and get back to this work, man, and changing the narrative in our communities and taking us off of life support, because, we got to give brothers and sisters hope out here, because no one should, freedom to me means no person should be in a cage. That means we should be doing something with deliberate intention on whatever their situation is. We can send billions of dollars to the Ukraine and over to Israel, but we can't do nothing at home with the streets and homelessness and the drug addiction and the mental illness. We can't do nothing about that besides build some more motherfucking jails. That don't make sense to me.
Hold on, man. Hold on, Book. I got it right here.
I'm on Dexter Avenue, Detroit,
Can you hear it?
Michigan.
Yeah.
Right on Dexter Ave. So, and I'm riding out here and I'm seeing all the work that's going on here. It's phenomenal. They're fixing on Dexter. That's the work that's going on. They fixing the street on Dexter. I'm right up the street from where my cousin, Abdul Ali, he had the barber shop for about 40 years. So this is my neighborhood. It's about 99% black over here. And they're doing this work, and I rode up and down the street a couple of times, and I saw that there was one company doing the work. And I jumped out, and I talked to a few of the guys, and I found out there's not one Detroiter working. There are no African-Americans working. None. In a 99% black community. But there are no Detroiters working either. So I got back in the car, and I just thought to myself, the plan is absolutely working for them. Gotcha.
See that, man?
Wow.
That's crazy, man.
But that's true. Because I know, you know what? I make it my business that when I'm driving, and no matter if I'm in the city if I'm in the suburbs and I see these people coming in moving trees, I see the people doing sewage, I seen the people doing streets. The only thing I seen them have a whole bunch of our people, black people, doing work in the city so far is when we came out on our street and told them we didn't want them putting them damn speed bumps in front of our house.
That's
But
bad,
you know,
though,
the
Book.
people who was putting them down were our people doing it and stuff. And that was encouraging to see, well, hey, it was keeping some people working. So in that degree, I was happy to see that for the one for one occasion, because usually when I go see and I'm driving and I'm looking and paying attention, I see a lot of foreigners and I see a lot of people that don't look like me. Every now and then you got one or two. It's just like going to a Trump, one of his big old rallies. You get two or three you put in certain spots to make it look good, you know, and that's not working. We building in the community. A lot of people have when it was an exodus in the community with a lot of whites leaving and then now coming back, but yet we're still excluded. That's why we got to engage in our civic duties and be more vocal in speaking in behalf to our legislators and to our council members in our community, because they have the gun, but we the bullets. If
Absolutely.
we don't be, and I'm not trying to promote violence. I'm talking about from a standpoint using uh, just being able to use an analogy. You can't shoot a gun with no bullets, and if we are not going to give our council members who we vote into office, holding them accountable and being more assertive in getting involved in change in our community, then if things are not going to change. We got to bring our problems, just like we want people to come to the Great Minds Project, to Michigan Liberation, and all of our affiliates and colleagues. We have to hear the voices of the community. We got to have more people getting involved. We're not on these podcasts to kick the bobos. We're on here on these podcasts to make and invoke change, building hope to a community that feels like they're neglected, and they are. But there is something you can do about it besides, like you were saying earlier, holding your head.
Right.
I never believed in turning the other cheek. If I thought somebody wanted to put their fists or put their hands on me, we had a problem right then. It wasn't about waiting and all that. Turn the other cheek.
Right. They say, why don't we go over here? Say, no, it ain't happen over there. Let's do it right now. This
That's
is where
right.
it happened. Let's get it right now.
It's just going down right where it started. That's why we got to start being more aggressive in nipping things at the bud. We can run to the liquor store, we can run to the dispensaries, but we can't walk together and come together and sit together and eat together and talk about solutions that we need to be talking about. And then in the efforts of the solutions and coming to that compromise in that dialogue, let's limit the dialogue to just being more or less dialogue, but more action, and we'll start seeing things change. Detroit is coming back, but if we don't get these sleepy-headed folks that don't want to do nothing because they feel hopeless because of the way they was raised sometimes in an environment without fathers who were gone during the mass incarceration, and now they preying on the women, sending them to prison. The highest surge of people in the population in jails and prison is women, black women.
Ooh-wee.
So we got to start getting more involved, getting information out there to our communities so that we can make this change. And we got to see the little Bookers and the little Demetriuses coming up, because otherwise it's a dying movement. And I see a lot of change coming. I see a lot of people that's fighting for us, but I don't see enough of us out here
fighting for ourselves.
and especially black men. That's real talk. We got to get involved. Some of us were the ones that were in these behind the walls of these prisons and everything. And then when you come home, what are you going to do? That knowledge and that information and that struggle that you overcame is something that can empower somebody not to go through that same thing, that same recycled system that we keep on recycling. And so the people get recycled, the community get recycled. And then who is it affecting the most? Black people. And then you got some clown getting on there telling somebody he gonna do more for you than Abraham Lincoln. When Abraham Lincoln, the truth of the matter, if it wasn't for slavery and everything, because he wasn't trying to end slavery, but he was, you know what I'm saying? But in order for that man to make that compromise, that was something that they had to throw in on the bargain. Who wouldn't ever want to keep on having somebody work for them for free?
Right. See, hey Booker, see, I'm gonna tell you something, man. Because I'm just sitting here, I was scrolling through some stuff, and we're gonna talk about this another time, Project 25. We're gonna definitely delve into that. And because we're talking about what does freedom mean. And freedom to me don't mean Project 25.
Joe don't.
So anybody pushing Project 25 can't be advocating or promoting or representing me.
That's almost like martial law. And I lived through martial law, them weeks that we went through the Vietnam, during the Vietnam War and all that, but during the riots of Detroit in 67, because I was 10. And I knew and I seen what martial law, going to the grocery store, having the National Guard all on top of the buildings with their firearms pointed at us, and they're like, we done something. I mean, I seen how martial law through the lens of a 10-year-old child. And so what they're talking about with Project 2025, it just reminded me of martial law. Somebody is in full control. You think that you got a foot on your neck now. Let some of these suckers get up in here with some of these agendas that they got against us, while we sitting up there in the hood, going to the clubs and carrying on, buying all the gym shoes, and we sitting up, but we're not educating our minds. We're not doing something to be more profitable. While all the businesses and all the land is bought up by others, and we're not doing nothing with all these vacancies to do and come collectively with our community to purchase and buy these things for ourselves. And we run around like we having a pity party talking about, look what the Arabs got, look what these people got, look what that people got, look who got all the donut shops and all that. Well, damn, if you get off your ass, maybe we can have a conversation. Maybe we can start making some changes.
Man, you ain't lying, Booker. On that note, Booker, man, listen. We're gonna pick it back up. We're gonna come up with some stuff, man. Me, you, and Marcus, man, and invite whoever else we want to have on here, man. Because the conversation is not just a conversation, it's the activation of movement. And that's what we're about. We're about movement, and we're not about the talk, we're about the walk. So if anybody got any questions about the work that we do, all you got to do is go to Michigan Liberation. Google Michigan Liberation. You ain't got to go to any other site, Facebook, anything. Google Michigan Liberation and check out the work that we do for criminal justice reform. We do a lot of social justice work. We do a lot of work with legislators, trying to get laws passed that more benefit Black and brown communities. We do that work every single day. So this is work that we don't even consider work, because it's like a natural right to us.
It's a calling.
Up to us. So check us out. You can check me out, Demetrius Knuckles Zeal, or the Great Minds Project, on all social media platforms. The Great Minds Project 5.0 is the podcast. You can check that out. Holler at them, Booker.
You can holler at me at Booker T at miliberation.org. And you can also contact me at 248-818-1010 if you want to get something going, get something moving in the community, because we are a movement. and we moving forward. We're not moving backwards. We're not looking for nothing to fall back on because we're going to move ahead. We're going to have plans that's going to go ahead. And for the plans that seem to be failing or moving too slow, we're going to have something to get those regurgitated and moving forward as well. So I appreciate the people that took the time out to listen to the words that we subscribe to y'all. And I just leave y'all with blessings, peace, and love.
So check this out, y'all. With that, I'm going to say peace and love to those within the sound of my voice. And for those who cannot hear the sound of my voice, I say pass along the message, because somebody needs to be inspired. Somebody needs to hear from you. Somebody needs to feel you. Somebody needs to touch you. Somebody needs to be a part of what you are a part of if you are a part of something positive. With that, I'm going to say peace, y'all.
Peace.